Hi, I'm Joey.
Hi, I'm Jelle. Joey, yeah, you whispered into my ear what we're going to talk about today, and I was like, huh? Am I getting any letters? But what are we talking about?
That's a good question. We're talking about Postman. It's an API testing tool. And I thought it would be nice to have this information because the last couple of projects I've been working on, I've seen that we use Postman as a dev tool, basically, to debug calls. But it's actually a really great tool to use for your test automation.
Using Postman as test automation. Yeah, so I do know Postman, besides the awful joke earlier. And I often use it just to make some quick, I need to debug my code, my API code, or I've also used it to export collections and send that to clients like, hi, this is how you can use your APIs, have fun.
Yeah.
But using it in, well, you said test automation, so not just manual testing, but automated testing.
Exactly. Yeah,
I am interested.
Well,
all right.
That's exactly the response I usually get from people when I show them there's actually a way to automate your test in Postman. So yeah, let's dive right into it, I think.
All right, so you've prepared something.
Right. So for the viewers at home that don't know, if you want to use Postman, go to their website, make an account, log in, download the desktop API and app. And I'm right in there right now, so let's dive in it.
Yep.
Okay.
So what are we looking at right now?
Right now, we're looking at the desktop app of Postman, right? So right here, what we're doing here is we can create requests, send them, and put tests on them. So the first thing you need to do is to make a workspace. You click on here, you click on Create Workspace. I already have one, like this. And this is a way where you can collaborate with your colleagues or other people. The next thing you need to do is you create a collection. See this as a project or a folder where you all the requests are in. And the final thing you need to do is you create an environment. And basically just nothing else than, I showed here, a list of variables we use. We see we have two columns, the initial value and the current value. It's good to know if your project loads, anything that's in the initial value will be used in your project. But all the information that's here in this column will be synced to the Postman server.
Yeah. So
if you have something like secrets, passwords, usernames, don't put them in here, put them in your current value column.
Very smart tip. But this is an API testing tool, right? So you're going to show me all kinds of awesome things. Which API are you currently testing? Very
good question. Well, I have it right here. It's the Swagger Petstore. It's an open source API. You can just go there for yourself. And the guys here, they have a Swagger. For those who don't know, the Swagger shows you the definition of the API. The cool thing about Postman is you can grab the JSON, so the definition right here, and I can import that right here into Postman. And if you do that, you will see right here, it will show you the Swagger. And you see all the definitions and all the calls you can have.
There's even a little README, so it's really user-friendly. Yeah.
Exactly. And then all the variations you have on the call, so a successful call, an invalid call, or something not found, it will be shown. So I use this in my daily testing practices, basically for my cheat sheet. So what's in there, and I'm not building the test upon this, but just like a reference guide.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we got that. I think we should look into the first test.
Okay, and are you going to open like Visual Studio for me, or maybe Notepad where you have written out the test case, or?
No, actually we don't. We just do the testing inside Postman. And I'll show you where it's done and how it's done. And that's the good thing, I think, about using Postman as a tool. You can do everything inside Postman. You don't have to go anywhere else, especially if you have the Swagger now included in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't ever need to leave this application.
All right.
All right, so we got a couple of calls right here. I just took one of these requests, find path by status, and I put them in here. I already prepared this, so you might see something different than the original URL. You see a variable here, base URL. That's a Postman variable, and that one I have stored here in the list. So you can see here it's the Petstore Swagger.io version 2.
Yeah. So you're doing testing on production, if I can be frank. But but let's ignore that. So let's say that this is a testing site. You're doing testing. You're putting in the URL. But if the URL changes, for instance, because you're going to an acceptance test or whatever,
Yeah.
you just change the variable.
You could do that, or you could create a different environment altogether. And that's a good one maybe to do that, because then you don't start switching it all together and make mistakes. So you create a variable environment for the testing environment and one for the acceptance.
Yeah, and you can also, of course, if you have like multiple APIs, you can swap that out with variables as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Okay, so let's try to send this request. I have it right here. I push send, and we'll see right here, we got a 200, it's okay.
Yeah, that's good.
And we got a nice JSON body with a lot of animals, because we're looking for pets that have the status sold. Okay, so let's move on to the testing bit.
Before you continue, what are we exactly looking at here? Because I'm not really familiar with this syntax.
Right, what we're looking at here is the way Postman describes their test. Right here we have the Postman object with the method test. This says to Postman like we're creating a test.
Yeah.
It has two parameters. The first one is a string.
Yeah.
This is the name of the test we're doing.
It's a great test name. Yep.
It is. And then the other one is the function, and that's basically the assertion we see here. The assertion is maybe a little bit weird in syntax. That's because it's using the Chai JavaScript library. And
okay.
Chai is supposed to be similar to natural languages. So assertions should be easier to read for humans.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have, for those interested, you can check it out. It's chaijs.com, and you can see all the kinds of assertions they have.
Yeah, it really reminds me of a package I tend to use for unit testing, which is called Fluent Assertions.
Yeah.
It does a very similar thing, I think.
It is, yeah. So right here, what we see the test. If you don't know how to make tests, the good guys of Postman, they have snippets here on the right side.
Yeah.
And you can click on them, and it will add a test for you. So that way you can try out your first test.
So that's how you got to this one.
That's basically the one I added out through a snippet.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you create a request the first time, the test will not be there.
I see. So but it's really integrated then. So it's basically if I can do a request, I can write a test as well.
Yeah, exactly, at the same time. Yeah, and you can use them to run them manually, and later on we'll see you can use them to run them automated. Yeah. So I send it again. We have a test result. It's 1 of 1. It's green. So I open
Always
it.
good.
We have a pass. The status code is 200.
Can you show me a fail?
Yeah, sure. So let's say we expect 404. Not found. Boom. It's a fail.
Okay, so it's an actual test.
It's
just
actual,
so
it's actually
people
working.
at home, we're doing actual testing here.
Right.
But this is, you referenced it. This is manual. You can try to get this by me. You're doing manual testing.
This is manual testing. Yeah, you see me pushing the button. Yeah.
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 So how do I get from this to automated testing?
That's a good question. What we need to do for that is we need to export the collection and the environment both together.
Yeah.
And then we can run them in a pipeline.
Like any pipeline, Azure DevOps.
The what we run it with is a CLI runner called Newman.
Yeah.
It's an npm package. You need to download that. As soon as that's downloaded on your agent or your build server, you can run it through a command line interface. So yeah.
All right. So you can fully integrate it as soon as your API is built. You can.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very interesting. Are you going to show me that?
Yeah, I can. Sure. I have prepared, of course, a nice pipeline.
I was really hoping you were going to build a live pipeline, but fine, cake in the oven.
Okay.
And I see you've done some test runs, very interesting. This is like, if I do any normal pipelines as a developer or as a DevOps specialist, this is where I would also expect my tests to run.
Yeah.
And this is, of course, also where I would have some agents. And you're saying you export from Postman, you install it on the agent, and you can run it here. That's basically all the steps you need.
Yeah, we can look at the script in a minute
to
see what steps we need to do. But yeah, that's basically the whole shebang.
That's really powerful.
So okay, let's look at my pipeline. I click on it. Let's check edit, and we see the script I've made. So I'm running on a free version. So I'm running on a Ubuntu latest image.
Saving money, very good.
Yeah, we see the steps I'm taking. So the first thing I need to do is install Node. It has to have Node higher than 16, else it won't run.
Good to know.
And the next step I'm installing Newman. That's our CLI runner. And then we get the script for Newman, basically, and that's it's setting up. So we see here Newman run, Petstore test suite Postman collection JSON. That's the one I've, and this is in my repo right now. This is the environment it's using, and if I want to use data-driven files, we can add this as well, -d.
Yeah, so you're actually using it at the moment. You're getting some of your test data from a separate file.
Yeah, exactly, and that one is in the repo as well.
Yeah, which is good because you're centralizing.
Yeah.
All your, but you could put it. You could also put it probably in a different repo and have like a testing repo and a pipelines repo and a production code repo and just join it all together at a later moment.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, interesting.
And next up, we see the reporters. I have two. I have the CLI in JUnit. What happens is the CLI shows you when it's running. I can see in the logging if it's okay. That's pretty cool. And I have the JUnit, and that's putting out an XML. After that, the thing is we run it here 2 times because I have a data-driven one, so it will iterate over the tests. So I need to, if you don't have like a suite that doesn't have it, you need to run it a second time.
Yeah.
And then we publish it basically at the end. So we have 2 XMLs because we run it 2 times. And then we get the results shown here in DevOps. So let's take a look at that. This one run just like an hour ago. It was a success. Let's look at the test. We have them right here. There are 19. And we can see them all here. So that's basically how you run it in a pipeline.
So of course, because you're still testing against a application that's running somewhere else. So if you need to have your application running just as with other like UI tests or contract tests or whatever.
Yeah, the way this is built
normally.
Normally.
But for demo purposes, you can just also test against a live website.
Exactly.
This seems almost too easy. Are there any downsides to this approach?
There's a couple of downsides. To be honest, the guys of Postman, they know how successfully they are becoming, so they put in stuff behind paywalls.
That's a downside?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a downside. That means, like, if you're a tester and you're building your suite, you have to run them. You want to run them here to see if they work. They've put a lock on that. So the free version gives you 250 runs a month.
Okay. That may be a problem for a lot of testers. It might be more than enough for some, but it's also a very small number if you're doing a lot of professional testing. So is it very expensive to increase? And is it tiered or is it just unlimited after?
It has 4 tiers at the moment. If you want unlimited runs, it can get very expensive. That expensive that they don't show how much it's going to cost you.
And this is a personal account, right?
This is my personal account.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, and they say this as well in their forums, is the Newman is our tool as well, and you can run that, and you can use it locally to do the same thing. And that way you're bypassing basically their
but you lose a bit of the Postman feel.
Yeah, the sexy UI and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a downside. You said there were multiple, but is this the biggest one, or do you have another one for me?
Well, to be honest, like things like iterating through tests, it can be a little bit cumbersome. You have to be really fluent in JSON or in JavaScript, to get around that. So things might tend to not be that dry altogether because you keep repeating requests. Yeah,
but there's a very nice previous talk by me on test code quality where I make the claim that if there's anywhere where I'm fine with repeating yourself, it's in testing code.
Right.
However, it's not fun to write repeating code, so fair enough. Okay, and you've used this in your actual integration, right? So what's the biggest upside to doing this as opposed to writing these kind of tests in C# or using another framework or another products?
The nice thing I think about this one was where I've used it in our projects is that it was used as a debug tooling first.
Yeah.
So my whole team is basically working in it. That was really cool. At the end, every developer in my team knows JavaScript, so they can fix the test themselves. It's not solely a tester purpose anymore at that time.
That's a big upside, I agree, That's very interesting. So basically it's become like a kind of Swiss Army knife for you guys. You can use it for debugging, for testing. It does your documentation almost by default.
Yeah.
It integrates nicely with API definitions in JSON. Yeah.
Yeah, and the cool thing is the guys at Postman, they just keep innovating at all, because like we have a thing here called the Postbot. They've integrated AI as well now, so it can generate documentation and tests on the fly, making me almost obsolete.
Yeah,
no,
it's a joke, and there's gonna be, but that's for a future episode, I think, the future of AI. But it is interesting that AI is entering the testing space now, and that's only possible because of these kinds of automation steps where you're really integrating your entire testing process into your pipelines, but also your developer action. So if a developer can fix your test, that's already phrased wrong. If a developer can fix one of the team's tests, that's a huge plus.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And if one of the downsides is that you need to know JavaScript, I'm all for it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I cannot, on top of my mind, I cannot see any other downsides right now, except that if you want to have like a full party on it or full team, it's going to be a paid license.
But we're reaching a world where paying for the stuff you want is becoming increasingly visible. At least I think the money grab here is quite plain to see, but I still get the feeling that it may be very much worth it for many projects.
I think so too. Like if you see how fast I can put out a test and automate them and put them in the pipeline, that's going to take me now about, I say, 40 minutes. Yeah. So
and what I understand is if I just want to play around with this, even as a developer, I can still do it for free.
Yeah, sure.
Until I start to really professionalize.
Yeah, so yeah, if you want to have workspaces, add more people to it, then you got to get a bigger license,
All right. That's really interesting. Is there anything else you want to add, or do you think the Postman demo speaks for itself?
I think it speaks for himself. I got a little more tests prepared if you want to dive into that.
Show me, yeah.
Okay, so one of the things I have, and this is probably back to the stuff where I said that we repeat ourselves a lot. I don't want to do that, actually. So what I've...
You don't want to do what?
Repeat myself a lot. Nice one. But what I want to do is show you this. So we have the same call right here. We have the variable status right here. This, you can see it's red.
Yeah.
So
because it's a great variable name, yeah.
Yeah, and that one is not in the variable list here.
Good. But it shows you, like, hey, what you're doing now is not going to resolve.
Yeah.
How are you going to fix it?
So we use data-driven tests for that. So we touched upon it just now.
Yeah.
If I press run here, there's a little option here, so set data, and I click on it, and I can add that CSV we saw earlier.
Yeah.
So if I add that right now, and I run it again, you will see it will run 3 tests, 9 insertions. So we're one, basically. So we don't have to repeat the request 3 times.
Good. Interesting. So, and this is where you said I have my test data added to the pipelines. You can do the same trick in Postman itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and the last one is scenario testing. I think it kind of speaks for himself, but one of the powers I think is in Postman is we can really extract variables from a response, put them in the variable list or the environment variables, and then reuse them in other requests. So and then chain them together.
The power here is also that this is really similar to how a developer would approach things, which is, it makes sense because this is it started at least as a developer tool.
Yeah.
So you're really bringing automated testers and developers closer together, which I think is a good thing. All right. So is this test going to work? Are you going to get a green test now?
I'm pretty sure it will. Let's find out if I run it. So these are 5 tests. We can walk through them. We're adding a path first to the database. Then we look in, is that path actually added to the database? Then we updating them with the new ID. We're looking for that new ID. We deleting them, and then we check, hey, is it deleted? So let's run it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you see, all tests, 10, everything is green.
So you've basically written an integration test here.
Yeah, this is what you can do. So like a user journey or...
a scenario, as you named it.
Yeah.
Really impressive. If I had unlimited money, I would know where to spend it. But thanks so much for introducing me to using Postman for testing purposes. And
you're welcome.
Especially amazed that it will integrate with automated testing so well, because in my head, Postman is really a manual tool, a debugging tool, and
that's the dev mindset, of course. Yeah.
I'll take that as a compliment. Thanks so much. I
You
think
too.
that's it. Bye-bye.
Bye.